This is Decelany, and welcome back. And yeah, also to paraphrase a very sedate noddy holder of Slade, it's Christmas. We can't escape it. So in honour of the season, I've decided to revive my NME+33 series. I haven't done one of these for ages, but this seems like the ideal opportunity. Mainly because the Christmas enemies were always double issues. Yes, here they are. This is it. It's the NME double issue for Christmas, dated the 23rd to the 30th of December, so that you'd only get one over that 2-week period. As you can see, the cover stars are the band of the year, according to the NME, for 1989. That's the Stone Roses. Anyway, yes, I don't want anyone to get too bored with this because it is a double issue, and as usual, the NME is full of stuff, and not all of it generally of great interest to, modern day readers, I guess you'd say. So I will chapter the hell out of this one. So if you wanted to kind of like skip forward to some of the more interesting sections, like their 50 albums of the year, that kind of thing, then please feel free to do so. Anyway, enough talk. Let's get on and have a look at this double issue of the NME, Christmas 1989. Okay, the Christmas 1989 double issue of the NME. As you can see, yep, the main feature, the main cover stars are the Stone Roses. Yeah, this was the year they released their debut album, April, May time, I think. And yeah, they finally cracked the charts. So also in this week, we have U2 in Japan, part 2 of that piece. The Wonder Stuff, Pixies, Jungle Brothers, Christians, Jive Bunny. What else? What other features do we have? Oh, some stars dressing up in kind of famous movie scenes. And yeah, basically just the usual end of year kind of roundup stuff. Let's get into it. Yes, the news pages. Yeah. So yeah, again, quite quiet news-wise. A few charity projects to talk about there. There was the NME kind of Elvis covers album, The Last Temptation of Elvis, and there's also kind of something there about a charity carol singing event to raise money for reforestation projects. Oh, some single news. Oh, Nothing Compares to You, announced Sinead O'Connor announcing her new single. Of course, we all probably know that one. Van Morrison on tour. Oh, and yeah, the usual Morrissey kind of album speculation piece. Yeah, he was always good box office for the NME, even if he wasn't doing anything. So there he is popping up in the news. Okay, next pages. Sex, Lies and Audio Tape. Yes, quotes of the year from various people. New Order's Barney there saying, we could quite possibly end up as awful as U2. Well, leave that for you to decide. Paddy McAloon. Yeah, if you've got a good set of tubes like Mick Hucknall or Terence Trent D'Arby, you can get away with singing any old mumbo jumbo. And various people weighing in on different subjects. Marky Smith on Acid House, apparently he invented it. And David Gedge likening the wedding present to Led Zeppelin. That's quite enough of that. Next page, we have Cliff Richard, A Career in Pictures. Yeah, the long time kind of 50s Brit rock and roller. Always made a career out of Christmas singles. So yeah, Stuart McConey doing a kind of a funny picture piece here on Cliff Richard. Moving on. Yeah, another one of these little comedy pieces. This is kind of a spoof blind date featuring some of the pop stars of the day. Yeah, there's probably some funny stuff in there, but I dare say that history hasn't been that kind to this. But yeah, you can probably guess who the people are from those pictures. It's Tanita Ticker and Morrissey, Axl Rose, Matt Johnson, and then Cilla Black there hosting. Yeah, that piece written by Andrew Collins. Okay, moving on. Yeah, a chance to win some tickets to see Paul McCartney on tour. Yep. Okay. And yeah, this is one of the big pieces this week, or the bigger pieces this week. U2 being interviewed on tour in Japan. So I guess this is circa the kind of Rattle and Hum album. They're still in their kind of heartland rock, I guess you'd call it, period. So, very earnest, out to change the world. None of that kind of Zoo TV weirdness yet. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, more funny pages. This time, David Quantick Stephen Wells with a Christmas piece that seems to be kind of centered around Billy Idol amongst a cast of, I don't know, dozens of people probably. I won't go into that, but there we go. Next pages. Oh, the big festive crossword. Yeah, as you can see, I had a stab at that one again. I really should have finished this really because the answers are near the back. So, you know, I could have just cheated and gone for it. But there you go. And the big Christmas quiz. Somewhere near about 50 questions. 48 actually. Let's have a look. Anything interesting? Well, here you go. I'll pose you one. You can try and answer it by the end of the video. I'll give you the answer at the end of the video if I remember. Question 18. Which legendary figure of the American New Wave was the subject of the Family Cat's Fabo debut 45? Moving on. A piece on the Wonder Stuff. Yeah, this was the year they started getting, like, you know, some proper, you know, action in the big boy charts. You know, Don't Let Me Down Gently, I believe, was like a top 20 single. So this is just kind of catching up with them at the end of the year, I guess. And moving on again. The Pixies, yeah, again. This is like peak Pixies, Doolittle era Pixies. And this is the band being interviewed, playing some big shows in California, I believe. And yeah, David Lovering there says, we want to be the best and the coolest, but we'll have to knock down Rush first. So, okay, moving on. Another interview feature. Yes, this one with the Jungle Brothers. This is circa their second album, I guess, which was done by the Forces of Nature. And yeah, I think the Jungle Brothers were one of the best kind of socially conscious rap outfits of that period, really. Yeah, it was kind of a golden age for that kind of hip hop, I reckon. Let's move on. Okay, this is quite a curious piece. This seems to be about kind of the war and various kind of comedy shows that were big at the time. Blackadder Goes Forth being one of them. There were reruns of like the old Dad's Army shows and Sergeant Bilko. I was really kind of confused by this to start with. I'm thinking, why were they doing this? Why were the NME covering this? And then I realized it's 1989, so it was basically, you know, the 50th anniversary of the outbreak of World War II. So I guess that covers it. Bit of filler, really, I think, but there you go. Moving on. Okay, a piece on the Christians from Liverpool. Yeah, they weren't kind of, you know, world beaters, I guess, but as this kind of, you know, socially conscious, you know, pop with a heart went, I think they were pretty good. You know, think bands like, you know, the House Martins and people like Billy Bragg and even early Simply Red were kind of that way as well. Yeah, their track Forgotten Town, it is a bit of a classic of that kind of thing, I think. And moving on, yeah, the big interview, the big kind of draw of this week's issue is the Stone Roses. And in retrospect, really, this was their year, because this year certainly going into 1990, because by the end of 1990, they were in that kind of contract hell, which just kind of stymied them. You know, their Second Coming album didn't end up appearing until, you know, December of 1994. They were kind of shut out of doing anything for 4 years, or certainly doing any new music for 4 years. So, yeah, this was kind of peak Stone Roses, I think, really. Yeah, they lost quite a lot of momentum over the intervening years, which I don't think they ever really regained. There you go. And moving on. Oh, a piece on Jive Bunny and the Master Mixers. Yeah, these were kind of pretty kind of canny, I guess you'd call them. Family duo, a father and son who just did these kind of low energy, old time kind of mega mixes, you know, lots of kind of 50s rock and roll and Glenn Miller, that kind of stuff. And yeah, again, 89 was peak Jive Bunny. But, you know, they kept going. They churned this stuff up well into the 1990s. Yeah, a novelty act. Let's be honest, they were a novelty act then, and they haven't really aged any better. Next. Okay, a piece with Antoine de Caunes, who was kind of the host of a TV show called Rapido. Subsequently, he did one called Eurotrash, which was, yeah, trashier again. But it was kind of a fashion, music, culture kind of magazine show that had its fans. I do remember them covering some pretty cool bands fairly early on. They had REM on during the IRS years. They featured the Sugar Cubes quite early. Yeah, I'm not sure. This, again, has the feel of another kind of, you know, we need to fill a double issue. Here's a filler piece for you. So, you know, quickly interview the funny sounding French guy. So next pages, we've got an interview with Barry Norman. Yeah, long-time film critic, and he was the host of BBC's film review show, the regular film review show for decades. Yeah, he was on it from the 1970s right through to the end of the 1990s. Yeah, a kind of a television institution. If you were a British film goer, of a certain age. And on the facing page, yeah, we've got the kind of sound and vision and the film, TV, radio stuff. So yeah, the films are quite quiet this week. The main release is the return of Swamp Thing, and what's in sound and vision? The week's media highlights, as usual. Yeah, there's a few days there, kind of the 26th through the 28th, where John Peel is running down the majority of his Festive 50. That was the fan-voted kind of favourite tracks of the year. Okay. Yeah, Public Enemy, the gossip pages. I usually skip over that, who's been seen where with who and how intoxicated were we, that kind of thing. I won't dwell. It's all very tabloid and it doesn't really have much relevance. There you go. Okay, past an ad. And on to the main meat of this week's issue, which is Fine Time 89. It's just a big look at the year and all the music-related, culture-related events. There are some photos there of people. Let's move on. What do we have? Lurking Indie Wings. Yeah, this is like looking at some of the indie bands that were kind of up and coming. Yeah, the Sundays get a big push there, because their debut album would be released, very early in January of 1990. So clearly they were looming. Plus it mentions a couple of indie acts like, Pixies, Pale Saints, Kitchens of Distinction, Ride, Family Cat, the big names in the indie kind of scene of 1989, the ones that hit big. Piece there about Stock Aitken and Waterman, who was still doing very tidy business in 1989 with all their kind of manufactured pop stuff. We've got on the facing page a kind of a world music rundown. Again, more Morrissey. Non-news. It was a bit of a down year, really, for Morrissey, I think. He did release Last of the Famous International Playboys this year, which is one of his singles that I still have a kind of a soft spot for. But yeah, fairly quiet Morrissey year, and a piece there about folk music. Although, really, if you look at it, it's actually kind of big, kind of rootsy acts, like the Waterboys, Maria McKee, Indigo Girls, Cowboy Junkies, that kind of thing. More kind of mainstreamy folk pop, I guess, rather than hardcore folk music. Over the page, yeah, hip hop. So yeah, big focus on De La Soul, KRS-One, Jungle Brothers, Public Enemy. Yeah, NME did focus pretty much squarely on the more socially conscious rap acts. They still found gangster rap a bit difficult to approach, a little too spicy for the NME at the time, I guess. And then on the facing page, yeah, a dance music piece here. It seems to be a bit of a division here, because there's a piece a little later in this, which we'll get to, which kind of covers acid house specifically. But yeah, here you get mentions for Soul to Soul, Black Box, Beatmasters, Adiva, all those kind of things, plus a few DJ mentions, shouts to Mike Pickering, Cold Cut, Graham Park, and yes, the centerpiece of any end of year issue of the NME, their 50 selected albums of 1989. So yeah, I'll pan across these, let you have a good look up close, but just to kind of cover what I can see from here, yeah, De La Soul's 3 Feet High and Rising was number one, and yeah, it pipped the Stone Roses debut album to number one. Yeah, Lou Reed's New York, Flying the Flag from kind of the old guard, in at number 3. It is a very good album. And the Pixies and New Order at 4 and 5. Yeah, there's some kind of interesting, quite deserving kind of dance hip-hop albums in that top 20. Soul to Soul, Beastie Boys. That was Paul's Boutique, I think. Neneh Cherry. Even NWA get a mention. They're just at the edge of that top 20. Yeah, that old guard, well represented there. Costello, Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, Neil Young, all in the top 20. So kind of just coming out of that 20, yeah. Shout out there to Love Is Hell, the Kitchens of Distinction's debut album. Real favourite of mine, still holds up, I think, as a really great kind of dream pop kind of shoegaze record. And a little lower again, down at 29. Real favourite of mine, Bob Mould's debut solo album Workbook. What else do we have further down there? Well, you can see for yourself, but I'm just shouting out a few as I see them. Oh dear, Prince's Batman there, 38. Not great, I think. Anything else really? I mean, just of note, there's very little of the early kind of grunge or shoegaze albums. Maybe they just kind of missed this year. I think that may be what it is. But, no sign of Lush or Galaxy 500. That's the thing that really leaps out of me. And also, Nirvana's Bleach album came out this year. That didn't make it in. No sign of any Mudhoney or anything like that either. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, the movies and TV of the year, singles of the year. So their number one movie was Rain Man. Anything else interesting in that list to talk about? Do the Right Things there at number 7, the Spike Lee film. Die Hard at number 16. And in TV kind of circles, Blackadder goes fourth. The final Blackadder series was their number one show. Oh, Alexi Sells Stuff down at number 8 there. Yeah, I was a big fan of that. And there are the singles of the year. Again, we'll dwell on this a little and have a look. Yeah, She Bangs the Drums and Fool's Gold at 1 and 2 in the NME's list of singles of the year, with the Sundays, Can't Be Sure, following up at number 3. Yeah, we'll just scan down that and have a look at Public Enemy's Fight the Power at number 6 there. Yeah, some more dance music in that 20. Keep On Moving by Soul to Soul. Monkey Gone to Heaven by the Pixies at number 22 there. Yep, that's the 50 singles of the year. Okay, moving on. Okay, some of these kind of pop stars in film poses. This is the first 2 of those. Fuzzbox as the Nuns in The Sound of Music, and Ian McCulloch, rather disturbingly dressed up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Okay. Now carrying on with this kind of rundown of, the things that happened in 89. There's this feature about, guitars. The best is fret to come. It says, it's kind of setting guitars up against dance music, really. I'm not sure. It's a bit of a stretch, isn't it, a piece like this? But this was kind of the end of the 80s. It was still pretty tribal, and some people still thought, you're either one or the other. So I think this kind of echoes that kind of feeling. I'm not sure. Okay, another bit about manufactured pop. There's a big picture of Sonia there, slightly disturbing. A piece on Seattle, the grunge, the hardcore kind of thing going on. Although I noticed they mentioned Fugazi down the bottom, which, absolutely nothing to do with Seattle. And, a little piece at the bottom, about, how it was quite a bad year. Sport-wise, this was the year of the Hillsborough tragedy. Terrible thing to happen. Over the page. This is what I was mentioning earlier, the kind of the more acid house specific dance music feature. E equals M25 squared. The E is pretty obvious. Ecstasy. M25, just in case you're unaware of this, the M25 is the big orbital kind of motorway circling London, and this was kind of like the kind of ground zero for the kind of acid house party scene. People would drive around the M25 and zip off to fields and dance until the early hours. There's a lot of overlap with this in the dance section. Maybe this kind of subgenre thing, maybe it's a sign of how much more geeky kind of the dance music scene at that time was, even more geeky than I thought. But there you go, it's a big piece there. Some names jumping out like Frankie Knuckles and Lil Louie, that kind of thing. And I'll just zoom in there at that piece on the top right, which is Fool's Gold. These are things which they say they sank without trace. These are things which they think didn't have a particularly great year. So, you can have a little look at that if you like. Okay, moving on over the page. Batman was the big movie of the year, I guess. And, the Prince soundtrack album, it was kind of one of those, filmic events. I guess there hadn't been a big superhero film for years. And then on the other side of the page, soaps. The Australian soaps were still kind of quite big, particularly in pop cultural terms, I guess, with, Kylie Minogue having come up through Neighbours, which debuted in the UK in 1986. Glastonbury there, it wasn't quite the big kind of massive multimedia phenomenon it is nowadays, but it was still one of the big festivals. Still had kind of a slight kind of hippie reputation, I guess. Lots of good causes represented there, CND, Greenpeace, that kind of thing. And then there at the bottom, a piece about swing beat, that kind of New Jack kind of swing thing. Jam and Lewis, Bobby Brown, Teddy Riley, Janet Jackson, I guess. Yeah, that kind of thing. Over the page. Dance music in the charts. It was now officially the new pop music, it seems. And then on the facing page, the first part of a piece all about the environment. This was always on the agenda. I mean, 33 years ago, before that even, up to the present day, still a lot to be done. An ever decreasing time frame. I would just say, always just do your bit. Try not to worry too much. That's my advice. But over the page, what do we have here? Yeah, right. And Grateful Dead, heritage rockers. It was the year that, some big names, older established artists kind of resurfaced, big albums, big tours, that kind of thing. Dylan, Lou Reed, Van Morrison, Neil Young, The Stones. Yeah, this is reflecting that from this year. And there we go. Manchester. Not Manchester yet, I see. It still really hadn't fully taken that title. The Happy Mondays had to kind of fix that for us. But yes, this was the year of, the Mondays, the Roses, the Spirals, the Charlatans, the new fads, all of that. Okay. Moving on. Yes, this is the second part of that kind of environmental eco piece. Breakdown of kind of environmental news throughout the year with a kind of a pop cultural slant, month by month. This was the year, of course, of REM's Green tour, their big world tour, which was a particular highlight, I think, for kind of that music eco kind of crossover. Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, they had, stall space given at every gig to promote green issues. And on a personal, I know that because I was there. My first ever concert was REM on the Green Tour at Newport Centre in May 1989. It was just a few weeks before my 17th birthday. And that was the night that kind of utterly changed my life. Never underestimate the power of music to just kind of completely open you up in a way that you never thought possible and to change the way you think. And on the facing page, we've got 100 good and bad things in 1989. I will get in close and scan down this for you to have a look at, but just a few examples. Good, the Berlin Wall being torn down. Bad, Tiananmen Square. Good, Happy Mondays finally getting on top of the pops. And bad, cassette singles. They weren't great. Good, Cameroon qualifying for the Football World Cup. And what else? Bad. Now the go-betweens, still not breaking, still failing to have a big hit. Anything else kind of light and frothy down there? Oh, Budvar beer available in supermarkets. We can all appreciate that. And bad. Oh, queuing at the Hacienda. This was the peak of the Hacienda Club, I guess, in Manchester. It was kind of a, dance kind of mecca, really. And it did attract huge queues of people. Let's carry on. The start of some live ads and the gig guide, which, is fairly low-key over the Christmas period, as you'd expect. Just turning over the page. And the continuation with more live ads. Upcoming tours there for January and beyond, February. Faith No More, Lloyd Cole. Over the page. Tears for Fears, Jesus and Mary Chain. That kind of thing. Tour and record news. Again, fairly low-key. The release schedule would tend to pick up in January, I guess, so not really too much to kind of point out there, I don't think. And then we're into the review section, starting with the album reviews. Again, pretty slim pickings, really. There's a world music roundup down there by Stephen Dalton. Stephen Wells, Wells himself, reviewing an Alice Cooper compilation. He gives it 6 out of 10. And then a whole slew of Peel Session album releases down there from various things. I did talk about these in one of my other videos about UK-based compilations. But there's a few in there that stand out. There's a Witness, The Slits, Stiff Little Fingers, The Only Ones. that's the album reviews this week. And then on the facing page, yeah, some live reviews. Got Neil Young at Hammersmith Odeon, quite a small venue, I guess, really, to see Neil Young at. And that was apparently very, very good. And the Buzzcocks, who had recently reformed, getting a pretty good write-up there as well. Let's turn over. Yeah, this is the second part of pop people in film poses. So you got Tracy from The Primitives as Alex in A Clockwork Orange, and John Peel as Jesus in The Last Temptation of Christ. Over the page, Fred Fact. Okay, I will zoom on this and let you have a look in case you're remotely interested. This is Fred Della's rundown of 30 years of #1 Christmas singles in the US. Yeah, there's some interesting ones in there. Get Marvin Gaye in 1968, Hall & Oates in 82, George Harrison down there in 1970, Chic in 1978, and then right up to Phil Collins at the time of writing of this. They weren't sure whether he would be #1 or not, but Phil Collins looking like he would be #1 with Another Day in Paradise. One interesting thing, there seems to be very little in the way of kind of, Christmas novelty records. I guess that must just be a UK thing. Anyway, yeah. And there's the continuation of the live ads there. Galaxy 500 getting a good write-up. And, yeah, just mail order places, that kind of thing. Over the page, and we are in the classifieds. Yeah, usual array of, things for sale, personal ads, that kind of stuff. There is one interesting one there. It's just, you read these and you think, I wonder what happened. Jerry from Manchester, where are you? Not quite shaking through. Please call Irene. I wonder if Irene ever did find Jerry. And then on the facing page, yeah, the continuation of a piece from earlier and the answers to the quiz and the crossword. The answer, by the way, to the question I posed earlier, whilst I remember, was Tom Verlaine. Yeah, the Family Cat's debut single was called Tom Verlaine. Okay, over the page, and we are into the charts. Yeah, so again, I'll pan over these a little for you to have a look. The #1 single was a re-release of Band Aid's Do They Know It's Christmas with Jive Bunny. Yeah, them. It is party season. At #2. And the #1 album was Phil Collins, But Seriously. In the indie charts, the Happy Mondays and Stone Roses were at #1 and 2 in the singles chart, and they flipped places in the albums chart, with the Stone Roses being at #1, Happy Mondays being at #2 with their Bummed album. And, oh wow, that's interesting. Soulside at #7 in the indie album chart with Hot Body Gram. Nice work there. Nice kind of Discord release there. And on the facing page, yes, the other charts. So you get all the American charts. And yeah, it seems to be the case that Billy Joel actually kind of pipped Phil Collins to the Christmas #1 there with We Didn't Start the Fire, and he's at #1 of the albums. And yeah, the #1 film at the box office was Ghostbusters 2. Yeah, bit disappointing, but there we go. Yeah, looking back at the 80s next week in the NME, they were getting in early there. We're always looking back, aren't we? And yeah, the Sundays, as I say, yeah, they were just about to hit big at the start of 1990. And over the page, what do we have? We have Jingle Angst. This is a Christmas-themed letters page. So there's a mixture of real, well, I think they're real, some real letters from people in there, and a lot of fake letters from, musical celebrities to Santa. So there's kind of jokey ones from like Matt Johnson of the John Peel, Milli Vanilli, Wendy James, Shane McGowan, that kind of thing. And this week it's edited by David Quantick. And there, yeah, just at the end, we've got a full page ad from Rock City in Nottingham. Yeah, very well-established venue. And that is the end of the NME's Christmas issue of 1989. Yeah, quite a kind of a pivotal year. Lots of things happening. And 33 years ago. I hope you've enjoyed having a read through that with me. Yeah, I hope you managed to find some bits of interest in this video. Like I said, all those chapters should help. In the meantime, yeah, whatever you're doing over the next kind of few weeks, over the holiday season, stay safe. And I'll see you soon with another video. Bye for now.